Hello and welcome to the TID Water and Power Podcast. I'm your host, Constance Anderson, and on this month's episode, we're looking back at 2024 and looking forward to 2025. 2024 was a big year for the district. Between project milestones and leadership changes, there are many accomplishments and significant changes to look back on. But as we turn the page on another year, we can already see that 2025 will bring lots of exciting new initiatives and significant long-term planning. On this episode, I'm joined by TID General Manager Brad Koehn to discuss the important projects that define 2024, the biggest challenges for the district, and a look ahead at the innovative projects and plans on the horizon. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm truly honored to be a part of what has become a world-famous Constance Anderson podcast.
Well, not just Constance Anderson, but we will take world-famous because we do have listenership literally around the globe.
Excellent.
So thank you for noting that.
Happy to be here.
Now, we last had you on the podcast back in September of 2023 when we had a multi-part episode on regulating reservoirs. But since that time, you have now become the general manager of TID. That's kind of a big move. So we're going to get into that transition in a minute. But first, can you tell us about your career history and specifically your career path here at TID?
Sure. Well, to start, again, I'm truly honored to be selected as a GM and join the excellent GMs that we've had in previous TID history. It means a lot to me. I'm a local guy, born and raised in Turlock, families here, and it really means something to me to work in the community that my family and I live in. So it's a big deal. I don't take that lightly. So truly honored. And my career path has, most of my career has been in private practice, civil engineering, surveying. And I got the opportunity to join TID in 2011 in the civil engineering department. And in 2017 was promoted to Assistant General Manager of Power Supply. And then in 2020 became the first Chief Operating Officer for the district. And then, as you had said, in June became the General Manager.
Fantastic. All right. So you've been in the GM role for about 6 months now. How have those first 6 months gone?
I think great. I've really enjoyed it so far. Again, there's a transition that occurs from COO to GM, but truly excited to be a part of TID in this transitionary period. You know, both water and power are going to transition significantly over the next 10 years, and really excited about being a part of that.
Very cool. Now let's go back to what that move was like from the Chief Operating Officer to the General Manager. How did you feel about that, making that jump?
Yeah, the opportunity of being the Chief Operating Officer really, I think, led to what I would consider a minimal transition into the GM role. It allowed me to be at the table for most of the high-level discussions and strategies that were being discussed at the time, and really led to a fairly seamless transition. Again, there is a transition. If I had to kind of point to an area that I'm coming up to speed on, it's the relicensing and voluntary agreement strategy. But again, have great staff that are doing a great job getting me there.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the sign of a good leader is to make sure you've got those people around you, those subject matter experts that can bring you up to speed and kind of guide you in the right direction. So. Okay, so let's get into our recap of 2024. In this episode, we're going to both look back at 2024 and ahead to 2025. So we'll start with the look back. A lot of notable topics in the last year, but I think we should start with one of the most recent and probably the one that will have the most immediate impact on TID customers, the rate change.
Rates are never a fun topic to talk about, but they're definitely a necessity in our line of business. And, to start off, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we haven't raised rates for 10 years. 2015 is when we last raised electric and irrigation rates,
right.
Which just is a testament to our reserve policy, the board governance, staff's diligence in optimizing our assets to be able to kind of provide our service at the least cost to our customers as possible. But with, looking to the future and that transition in the electric and water side that I mentioned earlier, the investments necessary to continue to meet our mission while decarbonizing our energy fleet, as well as reliably meeting electrification and load growth. Same thing on the water side, being able to continue to reliably provide water when we have less of it. Those things all are leading to larger capital investments, which unfortunately leave us needing a rate increase.
Sure. Now, the TID Board of Directors approved the rate increase on the electric side on November 26th, but can you tell us kind of what that increase looks like? Because it's not just a one-year increase, is that correct?
Yeah, so several reasons for it, but one reason is just we proposed a three-year rate increase, so 2025, 26, and 27. And the biggest reason is just to minimize the shock to our customers, to kind of step through, we use 2027 as a test year. What do we feel our costs are needed in 2027? And then we stepped towards that in the 3 years preceding that. Okay.
And I know many of the projects that we're actually going to talk about in this podcast kind of played into the need for that rate increase, but can you kind of give us a high level as to what some of those drivers were?
Yeah, some of the big ones are the Don Pedro Life Extension Project. That we've been at that for several years, and we'll be continuing to move through that for the next 3 or 4 years. That is completely rehabbing one of the largest generating assets the district has, and that will extend its life for the next 50 years. So wow. That's a long-term investment that will pay dividends to our customers for the next 50 years.
Sure, absolutely.
And amongst, the Upper Main Canal is the artery of our water system that we're moving forward into designing. That's a massive project. That's probably a 3-year project of really rehabbing that artery of our system to not only extend its life, but to also add capacity and flexibility in the water system. Those are two big examples of some of the projects we're talking about.
Right. And on the water side, the staff has also recommended a rate increase for our irrigation customers, again, for the first time in 10 years. And the board will consider that in January, is that right?
January, we will be coming to the board. We've been to the board with a workshop already, and we'll be coming to the board with a public hearing, so that the public's opportunity to voice any concerns or opinions on it, and then the board will take action in January. That will be effective, if approved, will be effective in February of 2025.
Okay, so while we're on the water side of TID, the district started some big projects and reached some really big milestones on the water side of the house this year. Can you bring us up to speed on what transpired with groundwater in 2024?
Yeah, so our groundwater sustainability plan was submitted, and after about a 2-year review from the state, we unfortunately did get a response back that it was insufficient and needed more data. We jumped right on that and has since resubmitted, provided clarity, provided additional information, and resubmitted that to the state. And we're hoping to hear back this year and hoping for positive results.
Very good. And anybody who wants to hear a little bit more about our progress with SGMA, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, in 2024 can check out episode 40, which aired in August of 2024, for a little bit more in-depth update from Michael Cook. All right. So an important part of our internal groundwater coordination is the Groundwater Accounting Structure Agreement. What can you tell us about that?
That agreement is between TID and the East Turlock GSA, and the benefit of that agreement is it really sets in place the water accounting framework, which is a document that shows where water is going amongst a groundwater basin. And, why I say that's a milestone is because it was the document that kind of put to bed where water is moving in the basin, and an acknowledgement that water moves from TIDs or the west subbasin to the east subbasin. And why that's important is because, one, it directs where groundwater is going, so we can kind of prioritize recharge projects, et cetera. But the other reason that's important is that acknowledgement also came with a payment from the East Turlock GSA to TID for that water. It is going to, in the projections, it is projected to decline as we successfully get water in the ground when we have plenty of surface water.
The payment will decline over the years. Okay.
So that will be
sense.
kind of it'll be transitioning down as we successfully recharge the groundwater. But until it does, it's a recognition that water is transitioning from west to east, and the payment is commensurate with that. So it's big for TID customers, and it's big for the basin as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And now an important part of TID's commitment to groundwater recharge led to some additional new projects in 2024. How are those efforts coming along?
So we had quite a few replenishment programs. We had a good water year, and so staff responded quickly and developed a lot of replenishment programs. Some of those, as an example, are the idle lands program, where sometimes customers are in between crops or they're taking out trees, and there'll be a year where they would not have put water on their field because they have no product. It's availability to water when we have it in plenty, to be able to flood that land and directly recharge the aquifer. So that was a program, and that water was free of charge and put to beneficial use. Another one is using private reservoirs that customers have put in to be able to pump or use microdrip systems out of. And it's the utilization of those private basins in the off-season where they're not used by the customer, and the district puts water in there and recharges the ground in that fashion as well. So it's really, those are just two examples of staff really coming up with out-of-the-box ideas with the objective of, when we have water, put it into the ground so we can use it later instead of sending it to the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. So kudos to staff for that, and also a shout out to the growers and who have agreed to test out some of these programs, because some of them there's still some unknowns to it. Yep,
there are still some unknowns, but I think those are becoming less and less especially as our growers are recognizing that the conjunctive use of the district has been integral in how we've got to where we are, and we have to continue to even improve on that conjunctive use to be able to survive with less water in the future.
Absolutely. Okay, what other major accomplishments were reached on the water side in 2024?
One project worth noting is a river restoration project we did in the Tuolumne River in partnership with MID, City and County of San Francisco, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And it is at the old LaGrange Bridge, and it was, in concept, placing gravel back in the river where kind of original conditions. Over time, rivers move gravel downstream, and this is basically restoring it to improve salmon habitat. And there was a lot of details of how that's done, but we did it in a fashion, and I've just heard actually over the last week that there's been some surveys and monitoring, and it is notably made an improvement in salmon population already. So
that's fantastic. And the project just completed in October.
And so it's great to see those results. And again, it just kind of goes back to the district wanting to put money and efforts into projects that truly do improve the environment and not just a flow measure only.
All right. So in 2024, we saw some big movement on a much anticipated project, Project Nexus. What's the update there?
So exciting news on Project Nexus. So again, that project is built in kind of two phases. One is the narrow span section and one is the wide span section. And the narrow span section Excitingly, I can report that is erected. It has it started with foundations, moved vertical with steel, and now has solar panels in place, shading the canal system, which is a very interesting thing to see. It kind of seems simple to think, well, of course it's shading the canal system. But the first time I saw it, as I drove up, we don't see our canal system shaded. So it was this really unique, interesting kind of dynamic that we walked up, and it was just neat to see that it seems obvious that this is going to reduce evaporation and it is going to reduce aquatic growth. And so it was really neat to see a shaded canal. So that is being tied in electrically, interconnected to the TID system, and we hope to be online by the end of the year.
Fantastic.
The wide span, it's also exciting that we have a contractor being selected, and we have a design that we're moving forward with, and we plan on breaking ground early 2025.
Fantastic. Okay. So we look forward to the update on the 2025 progress when you do your look back for us at the end of that year.
Absolutely.
Very good. All right. Any other important updates from 2024 that we should note?
One thing worth noting is that the district has been very successful in achieving grants. I believe the number is over $30 million that we have received from various entities. We're consistently applying for grants, and we're more consistently being successful in getting them. Just to note a couple of them, we're moving forward with, we got a grant for floating solar on Lateral 8 regulating reservoir. We're moving into the second phase of Don Pedro Life Extension with the Department of Energy. And all of these opportunities are it's just one more way that we use to, optimize our resources and keep rates low.
Mm-hmm. And do so in very innovative ways. Yeah. It gives us opportunity to kind of test different theories and see how those play out for the district.
It's another reason why, another benefit in pursuing these kind of more innovative solutions to solve our problems, because the innovation is where the grant funding is. And so a lot of times, moving forward, you could be at the initial stage of something that will be the future. At the same time, you're getting it paid for by somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good combination.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so what are some of the challenges that the district saw in 2024?
Many of the challenges in 24 aren't just 24. They're more long-term challenges. Aging infrastructure is one that's, I'm sure you've heard a lot about. The district isn't young. We have a long history. A lot of our infrastructure was built over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been impeccably maintained, but over time, impeccable maintenance won't last forever. At some point, it does have to be replaced, or at least fully rehabbed. And so we have a lot of infrastructure that is approaching that level. And so that's our capital investment that I mentioned earlier in regards to our rate increase. That's we're needing to put some significant investment in many of our assets. So aging infrastructure is definitely on the list. Load growth is another one that is, load growth isn't something that new to the district. We've grown from, a small utility to a medium-sized utility, so it's not something we're not used to. The one thing that's coming now is this load growth isn't coming in just general waves. It's not where are the subdivisions coming into town and this 0.5 to 1.5% load growth over time. It's coming in large chunks, and that is harder to plan for because you don't necessarily know where some of this load is coming from. Some of our customers are now asking for 15, 25 megawatt loads where, that's 1 to 2 substations worth of load. So, at one point, not too long ago, a 2 megawatt customer was a very large customer, and we're getting requests, 10 plus megawatt customers. So Planning for that type of load is more difficult because it really matters where, because it's not, well, I just need to build a transmit or a distribution line to that customer. It's, I need to build a substation. And then if you're going to be proactive with that, then where do you build a substation? You don't want to build it in the wrong location and then be like, oh, no, those requests are coming somewhere else. So it's just a little more cumbersome to plan for that load, the type of load we're seeing. But our staff is doing a great job in interacting with the development community, interacting with our cities and counties locally to understand where vehicle charging is coming, and where their general plan is pushing, these larger developments, and where our system really needs that capacity. And so it's just more cumbersome than it has before.
And just for perspective, like when you talk about these larger customers that are coming in or are wanting to move into TID service area, what types of customers are these? These aren't, like you mentioned, the typical subdivision.
No.
What are we seeing?
So all different types. Large industrial. We have battery manufacturing industry. We have large truck charging, so like semi-truck, battery semi-truck charging stations. Okay. Even data centers are kind of, we have several requests out. So there's a wide gamut, but I think you're right in the fact that one common thing is they're not residential. No, we still have residential load and residential growth. It's just not this type of lumpy load that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Other challenges in 2024 that might carry over to 2025?
I would say regulatory is always on the list. As everyone knows, California has an aggressive mandate to decarbonize the electric utility. We're on track with meeting that, but it just is going to require additional investments, additional procurement of renewable energy, and we make our voice loud and clear that, we serve a decent amount of disadvantaged communities, and we can't meet these mandates at any cost, because a reliable utility that's unaffordable doesn't have much value to the community. So we make our voice loud and clear that affordability and reliability are our mission, and we have to stand behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's shift our focus now from the rearview mirror and look towards the horizon of 2025. What are we looking forward to next year?
So 2 big plans for 2025 and beyond are 2 forward planning documents. I'll start on the water side with the what we're calling the Comprehensive Water Plan. And it is, again, like the name says, it's comprehensive of a lot of things. It's comprehensive of our groundwater sustainability plan, our ag water management plan, and probably one that we focus on most is the irrigation system modernization plan. And the reason we focus on that one the most is that's really the one that is probably the most visible. It is, how are we going to transform our 250 miles of canal system to a canal system that was built to spill to the rivers via gravity, to flipping it to where it has no unintended spills. And a little bit more about this irrigation system modernization plan. Its driving factors are water savings, increased level of service, and increased water quality. And so really those are the 3 components that prioritize the projects within that plan. And again, that vision is to have a system that is nearly on-demand water with no unintended spill out the end of the system.
Okay. So obviously that is a very long-term project. What part of the irrigation system modernization plan will be implemented in 2025?
Yeah, a couple of examples of some things we're moving forward with is, one is the Series Main Total Channel Control pilot project, and that is piloting what we call Level 5 Total Channel Control, which we do not have implemented anywhere in the district. We do have a Total Channel Control project on Lateral 8, but the Level 5 component is implementing not just the drop structures automated, but also all the side gates in that section automated. So the customers, the customer delivery point will also have automated gates on each of the side gates. It also implements a online scheduling component through Rubicon software, which is the vendor. And really the benefit of piloting this is learning what are the challenges and what are the benefits that this level 5 TCC brings to the district, so that we can use that information and plan accordingly, because it is a significant change for our customers as well as our staff. And so learning what in a small piece, a small size project, learning the benefits and the struggles are going to benefit the entire project itself.
Okay, very cool. Other parts of the program that might be implemented in 2025?
We're moving forward with another regulating reservoir on lateral 5.5. We're pursuing grant funding that's fully designed. It's shovel ready. We have bought the property previously, and we're ready to add another regulating reservoir to the system in a critical area of the district where we can benefit not only lateral 5, but also lateral 5.5, which is notorious for having lower water quality because we utilize groundwater pumping more in that area, which has been a tremendous benefit of these regulating reservoirs, as we've seen our groundwater pumping numbers go down significantly. And so that improved water quality, that further utilization of surface water versus groundwater, huge benefits to the district. So, and
as I mentioned when I introduced you, you did a full podcast episode for us on the regulating reservoirs and the success that TID has seen from those. So we know that they're at this point tried and true, and looking forward to implementing that again in the district.
Absolutely.
All right. So why are these projects important to modernizing TID system? You've mentioned, of course, that we're working with 100-year-old plus infrastructure, but why is it important to kind of test out these modernization efforts? Really,
again, back to the drivers of the comprehensive water plan, the top of the list is water savings. I had mentioned that our system is designed to spill to the rivers. That water, if we had a system that didn't spill to the rivers around us, that water is then saved in our upper reservoirs for a year that we don't have enough water to serve our needs. So really having a system that, again, matches supply with demand to a level that saves water in our upper system, again, to meet the needs when we don't have enough water.
Truly. And originally, when the system was created, we were farming a lot less. We had less demand on the system. So the fact that the system spilled a little bit was less of a concern.
Yep.
But now, as you mentioned, when we go through these periods where we're seeing drought for 3, 5, 7 years, it becomes even more critical.
You add regulatory environment and climate change, and it equals a different scenario than we're used to in the past.
Absolutely. Okay, so what about the recharge projects that we talked about that ramped up in 2024? Will we be seeing any of those in 2025?
A couple of projects that we're going to move forward with in 2025 are, both of them are direct recharge method, and they're both pilot programs. One of them is working with a customer, a farmer, to, while he's in between plantings, to install some subsurface piping before he plants and pilot how effective that is to proliferate water when we have in excess, proliferate it in those pipes subsurface to his crops, and then test how much we can get in the ground in that fashion.
So different than flood irrigating, where the water goes across the land and then seeps into the groundwater basin. We're putting that water directly into the basin.
Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then also kind of similar direct recharge, but using our canal banks. We obviously have banks on both sides of 250, so 500 miles of canal banks, looking at how we can put piping lateral in those canal banks. Again, like a French drain type of a system where when we have when we have water to replenish, we put it in those pipes in our canal banks, and it seeps into the ground that way, direct recharge.
Okay, and you're going to have to describe for me, what is a French drain?
So French drain is just a design term for a pipe that's perforated. So you put a pipe that's perforated, you put water in the pipe, and it seeps through the perforations and into the ground. Okay,
interesting. All right. So you mentioned when we started talking about 2025 that there were 2 plans that were coming, one being the Comprehensive Water Plan. What's the other one?
So we're calling it the Energy Roadmap, and really it is how, we had mentioned earlier on California's aggressive goals to decarbonize the energy industry. And it's really how is TID going to comply with that? And like I said, so far we're on track and we're complying, but the goals are aggressive. We're 60% renewable portfolio standard energy by 2030 and 100% carbon-free retail energy by 2045.
That's serious.
Every energy provider is looking at how they're going to comply with that 2045 date. Many have put together plans. Some have put together plans that they're going to meet that before 2045. Our plan is going to be a little different than many of the ones we've seen, because our plan is going to be extremely comprehensive of all options that we could utilize, not knowing exactly where technology is going to go, not knowing exactly where regulation is going to go. We want to look at items that we haven't looked at in a while, like what does pump storage mean for the district? What is small modular nuclear? And again, these are things that aren't necessarily compliant now, but could be in the future. And so what do those look like for compliance? The other thing our plan is going to be is it is going to include costs. Many of these plans you look at show compliance and a goal towards compliance, but you are searching for the costs and they're just not there.
Sure.
We want to make sure that our customers, there will be a public portion to this plan as well. We want to make sure that our customers are involved and understand what it's going to cost to comply with these mandates. And the third tenet is going to be front and center guiding principle is us continuing to meet our mission of providing electric service in a reliable and affordable fashion. Neither one of those can be missed.
Sure.
So we have to hit the target on both of those. So that's going to be the guiding principle for the plan.
Okay. Well, that sounds exciting. Okay. What other projects are we anticipating progress on in 2025?
A couple things to mention is the voluntary agreement process. We are still actively pursuing the VA process as an alternative to the SED, or the 40% unimpaired flow. It is still a superior option, and we are still working with state staff to kind of move through the implementation process. We've got a lot of wins under our belt. We have all the way through the governor's office. We have support for the voluntary agreement, and we're just working through the last steps and are hopeful to hear positive results early 2025.
Wow, that would be fantastic. That's been a long time in the making.
It has been a long time coming.
Very good. Another change coming in 2025 is a little bit of a changeover in the TID Board of Directors. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, in December, we swore in a new board member, Becky Arellano. She's the first woman board member that TID has ever had, so that's monumental.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit about Becky. She was a City of Turlock councilwoman. She comes from a long history of agriculture in the local area, and I'm looking forward to working with her and her leading us through these challenges that we've just discussed.
All right, so there's obviously a lot on the slate for TID in 2025. Are there any other projects you want to tell our listeners about before we let you go?
One thing I just wanted to close with is, I I can talk about all of these directions and strategies that the district's moving forward in, and that's important to plan and to have a good strategy. But really, the implementation of all of the things I've talked about are only going to come through the hard work of TID staff. And TID staff is the only way this is going to get to the finish line. And just wanted to say publicly that TID staff is amazing. And without their diligence, none of this would come to fruition.
Very good. And I'm sure that all of our employees who listen, and there's a good number of employees who listen, will appreciate that. So thank you for that recognition. All right. Well, if there's not anything else as of this moment, we look forward to having you on again in the future to give us the update on everything, all the good work that has transpired at TID. But we'll let you go for now.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for tuning in to the TID Water and Power Podcast. You can find TID on Facebook at facebook.com/TurlockID, on Instagram and Twitter at TurlockID, and on LinkedIn as the Turlock Irrigation District. I'm your host, Constance Anderson. We'll see you again next time.